Thank you for joining us today. Our aim in our work together, our service, is to embody spiritual discernment, to practice positive harmlessness, and eventually achieve a state of divine indifference as we dispel illusion, dissipate glamours, devitalize Maya in all our relationships. Today we're going to review some instructions from Master DK as we continue to ponder three major glamoured thoughts that he gives us, which are self-pity, the spirit of criticism, and suspicion. Before we move forward into considering suspicion as a glamour, particularly as it relates to our group work, we're going to read this paragraph that he's given us in Discipleship in the New Age, and then pause, and we'll pause the recording and ponder thoughtfully on it and sharing our ideas of how we integrate into our group work his instruction. Katie, would you read the paragraph for us, please?
Continuing our review of the Tibetan Master's instructions on the third category of glamoured thought, suspicion. I would like here to emphasize one point as we consider the individual in the group and his group relations. Watch with care your thoughts anent each other, and kill out at once all suspicion, all criticism, and seek to hold each other unwaveringly in the light of love. You have no idea of the potency of such an effort or its power to release each other's bonds and to lift the group to an exceedingly high place. By the pure light of love for each other, you can draw nearer to me and to the teachers on the subjective side of life and arrive more rapidly at that gate which opens on the lighted way. You have the opportunity to demonstrate to each other the scientific value and power of love, regarded as a force in nature. Make this demonstration your endeavor. You will thus release for each other all that is needed to bring about potent and vital changes in the life patterns and purpose of the group members. Love is not a sentiment or an emotion, nor is it desire or a selfish motive for right action in daily life. Love is the wielding of the force which guides the worlds and which leads to the integration, unity, and inclusiveness, which impels deity itself to action. Love is a hard thing to cultivate. Such is the inherent selfishness of human nature. It is a difficult thing to apply in all conditions of life, and its expression will demand of you the utmost you have to give and the stamping out of your selfish personal activities.
So as I pause the recording, I'd like for us to take a couple of minutes to just ponder this in silence. And we'll continue a discussion of these instructions next week. So name the individual glamour that you find hindering you as we continue to work as a group on the dissipation of the group glamour of group exclusivity that fosters separativeness and harmful divisions. As DK tells us, there are aspects of glamoured thought forms for individuals, a form of self-pity, a spirit of criticism, suspicion as the major categories. Name the glamour that affects you as an individual in relation to our group. Consider the glamour as it manifests in your life and group work. How it hinders your progress and hinders your service. See your part in it, for it in turn hinders group progress and affects group service. Master DK tells us that right spiritual motive involves merging of the personality, self-will, into that of the sacrificial will of the soul. He also gives us these 9 major categories of glamour. And as we have discussed as a group, the glamours, as we uncover them, as they move into our consciousness as hindrances, we can see the relationship. It is almost as if a constellation of glamours appears. For example, the glamour of self-pity, often relating to the glamour of duty. The glamour of criticism, often relating to the glamour of the mind and its efficiency and its capacity to deal with any or every problem. So as we move forward together, naming our individual glamours in relation to group, exclusivity or separativeness, consider what may appear as a constellation of glamours and select one to work on as your individual glamour. We align and focus with purity of motive, inspired by a loving heart. Before we begin the technique, let us align as soul and as a group. See our group approaching Master DK's study. The ivory door appears, and we enter into his study as a group. Together, we silently sound the soul mantra. And in that soul silence, fuse and blend personality will with the will of the soul. I am the soul. I am light divine. I am love. I am will. I am fixed design. My will is now to lift the lower self into the light divine. Such is my will. Using the technique of meditation 1 and 2, lift the solar plexus to the heart center and up the spine to the heart in the head. Sound a silent Om from the highest head center. And from that point, we align as soul with all those studying and meditating with Master Dwal Kul, including those who join us from the other side of the veil. Breathe in effortlessly and easily. See our group moving through that field of lotuses. We have arrived at the ivory door. We have been greeted by the Master, and we begin a contemplative approach, advancing together as a discipleship group, as we endeavor to dissipate glamour and dispel illusion as individuals and in group formation. We stand around Master Dwal Kul and see the 3 windows filled with light. As we stand in silence, he turns and faces the east. So together, as we enter into a great point of light, we sound the mantra of group fusion. I am one with my group brothers and sisters, and all that I have is theirs. May the love of the one soul pour forth to all. May the energy of the one soul lift and aid all. May the thoughts which the soul creates reach and encourage all. May the energy of the divine self be spread abroad in our hearts, through our groups, and throughout the world. We see this great light. In the preparatory stages for group work, we imaginatively bring the group together in our minds. And through the act of naming, we face the group members eye to eye and establish soul-to-soul connection. In silence, we withdraw from personal and world affairs, and we center on the work to be done. We set up a magnetic field of positive, receptive activity. We name each person, visualizing the cross of divinity within the aura of each individual. And then using this great symbol of light and of consciousness, signifying the vertical light and the horizontal light, bringing into the group the power of attraction and the power of radiation. And a focus on soul life and service. In an act of protection, we sound the protective formula using this long-armed vertical cross, touching the points as we are guided to do. Touching the forehead. As a soul, I work in light. The center of the chest. And darkness cannot touch me. The left eye. I take my stand within the light. The right eye. I work, and from that point, I never move. Visualize yourself standing in the group, having sounded the sign of the cross of divinity and the protective formula. Let us do this now as a group, visualizing the sign of the cross in the middle of the group and rising as we sound. As a soul, we work in light, and darkness cannot touch us. We take our stand within the light. We serve, and from that point, we never move. For individuals, we are given an outline of a brief formula that we will integrate into the group formula as we proceed. As an individual, it may be valuable to use the protective formula as you recognize the glamour to be dissipated. As an individual, when you focus the light of the personality, the dual light, and then the stage of meditation, brief but potent, recognizing the greater light, and achieving as an individual the unification of the dual light of matter and the light of soul, creating thus the searchlight of your mind, your soul. Do that now as an individual. Focus on the light of your personality, a dual light, the light of matter and the light of mind. See that light. And now briefly meditate on and recognize the greater light, the soul light. Bringing those together, merging and blending the three lights, your individual searchlight. And recognize the power of your spiritual will and your alignment with the soul. Recognition of this integrated process, the integration. You're going to retain this light. Let us now do this as a group. Let us focus this light as a group light. Aided and supported by those from the other side of the veil. Bringing these lights together the light of matter, the light of mind and soul light, now creating a great light of the group. Each of us making our contribution and consciously attempting to visualize this blending of the triple light which each member contributes and which is brought together with those from the other side of the veil working with us into one great sphere of light. From that high point of soul focus, using the triple light, it is merged and blended as the group soul. We have a realized unity of the souls of all the group members, increasing in power and potency in this greater searchlight that we create together. We say together in unison, the light is one, and in that light shall we see light. This is the light that turns the darkness into day. We sound a group Om, affirming the realized unity of the souls of all the group members. We sound the soul as the soul on the mental plane. And now, in unison, in unity, we sound as the soul on the astral plane, the soul ready to function as light bearer and distributor of light upon the astral plane. The light is one, and in that light shall we see light. This is the light that turns the darkness into day. We've completed the processes of individual alignment and group alignment and integration. The sounding of our Om indicates both sphere of action, the fusion that we have achieved in sounding it first as the group soul, the realized unity of the souls of all the group members, and then as the soul upon the mental plane, and finally as the soul now ready to function as light bearer and distributor of light upon the astral plane. We do so using symbols in order to keep us at a point of tension for pure intention. We begin the technique by sounding the mantra of light, visualizing the turning of this great searchlight that we've created together, our unified light, onto the glamour to be dissipated, holding the light steady and still quiescent, realizing mentally the work of dissipation it is intended to do, confirming this by an act of direction as we sound this mantra in unison. Radiance we are and power, we stand forever with our hands stretched out, linking the heavens and the earth, the inner world of meaning and the subtle world of glamour. We reach into the light and bring it down to meet the need. We reach into the silent place and bring from thence the gift of understanding. Thus, with the light we work and turn the darkness into day. Pausing for a few minutes, we attempt as a group to throw behind the searchlight our united, directed, and dynamic will or intent. This carries along the projected beam of light the destructive quality of the spiritual will, destructive to all that hinders the manifestation of divinity. Attaining a united point of tension, dedicating individual and group will to the will of God through this act of will, carried on by each of us silently, with a deep realization that we are all thus accepted and that it is the group will which is being silently focused. Visualize the searchlight building in power, radiance, and strength, still quiescent and not yet directed out. And say, with power upon its beam, the light is focused on the goal. We now enter into the act of projection. We utter the words of power which, again, naming the particular glamour, and we will do this act of projection first as individuals and then with the group glamour. Naming your individual glamour to be dissipated by this great searchlight. The power of the light prevents the appearance of the individual glamour of, naming it silently. The power of the light negates the quality of the glamour from affecting me. The power of the light destroys the life behind the glamour. Having affirmed the individual glamour that is to be dissipated, let us now sound these statements in the act of projection to dissipate the group glamour of separative group exclusivity, the harmful divisions produced with that separativeness. The power of the light prevents the appearance of the group glamour of exclusivity by separativeness. The power of the light negates the quality of this glamour, group glamour, from affecting us. The power of the light destroys the life behind the glamour of group separativeness, exclusive and harmful divisions produced. We've projected into the three aspects of the glamours, individual and group. And now, through the act of penetration, the most important aspect of the work, we visualize the gradual dissipation and dispersal of the glamour by the penetration of the light into its darkness. Each in our own way and according to our own understanding and capacity, we endeavor to see the glamour disintegrating and the reality emerging, doing this by an effort of the creative imagination. We continue in silence and intensity of purpose as the work goes forward in silence for 5 minutes. We begin the act of withdrawal, withdrawing the consciousness from the astral plane and the world of glamour. We refocus our attention, first of all, on the mental plane. Then on the soul plane, relinquishing all thought of the glamour, knowing that the work has been successfully carried forward. We reorganize ourselves as a group in relation to the kingdom of souls, and then to each other. Occultly speaking, the searchlight of the soul is shut off. We sound the Om in group formation together with the bowl. Om. And then, in order to emphasize that the work is ended, so let it be, and help us in our individual lives and in group life to end all glamour and untruth. Having concluded our individual and group technique of light for the dissipation of individual and group glamour, we thank all group members and all those joining us from the other side of the veil. And next week, we will continue our review of the Tibetan's instructions and focus on the glamored thought of suspicion.